Hello, and welcome to A Deeper PTE. Here we allow ourselves to explore the far out, the unproven, the religious, spiritual, and controversial. We also go more in depth on topics not suited for the main channel. The majority of this channel's content is based in opinion, speculation, and theory, not necessarily facts. Nothing presented should be construed as legal or medical advice. Always consult with your physician for all health and medical decisions. And finally, please do your own reading and research and come to your own fact based conclusions. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and happy Wednesday to you. Today is Wednesday, November 24th, 2021, and you are now watching A Deeper PTE. I am your host, PTE, also known as Permission to Exist. And it is so good to have you this morning. This morning, we are going to be talking about the article that I mentioned in yesterday's show. So, yesterday I did a live stream titled Europe Erupts General Haircut Update. And that's where I first mentioned this article, and we kind of even got into it a little bit. But I was saying how I think it deserves its own show and it deserves to kind of stand alone because there are so many different things in this article that I wanted to pull out and talk with about you guys or talk to with you guys about. So that's what we're going to do. So, good morning. Welcome to everyone. Definitely want to put out there that this is a very, very serious topic and very sensitive topic as well. And it can be considered graphic. I'm a pretty squeamish person, and I wasn't all that grossed out. I really wasn't. So I think if you're very squeamish, I think you'll be able to handle it because it's not really a gross story. It's more of a just like what, like WTF, like how could this even happen? In modern day medicine is kind of what it is. So we're going to talk about that. And I just want to make you all aware of that though. And it is also in both cases, both of the women did pass away. So I did want to let y'all know that right up front. I don't want to do like a surprise ending at both of them. And that's when you find out. Unfortunately, both women passed away in these stories. So it's so layered, you guys, which is why it got pulled out and it's going to be its own show. So let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you on this Wednesday morning. It is absolutely freezing where I am. Is it freezing where you guys are? Because it is absolutely like unreasonably cold. But then I remember, oh, yeah, it is like late November, but it's not winter yet. Winter doesn't start till December 20th, from what I understand. So, welcome everybody in the chat. Hi, Sammy. Welcome to the new subs. It's good to have you guys. So, let's go ahead and get into this, you all. So, first and foremost, yes, it is brick. I agree, Awa. I want to make I want to make it known and be very transparent that I do not have children of my own, and I've never actually ever even been pregnant. So, anytime I'm speaking of pregnancy or childbirth or anything like that, it's all secondhand knowledge. So if there are any mothers in the chat or any women who have given birth, please, as we're going through this, please, to the extent that you're comfortable, share what you know or share what you're going through. And if anyone's interested, I was even thinking of if you wanted to call in, if you felt comfortable just calling in and telling your story if you want to, because I think it's very important that these stories are told because they don't get heard very often. All you usually see are the Instagram pictures. You get the full progression. So you get the ultrasound photo, month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in some cases. Then you get the trip to the hospital pictures. Then you get the in the hospital bed pictures. Then a couple hours go by and then you get the new baby pictures. And that's typically all you ever see. And from there on out, it's, all positive things. Like you typically don't see or hear of anything negative coming out of these birth stories, which that's good. Like if people aren't having bad birth experiences, that's what we want. We want positive birth experiences. But I think a lot of times what's happening is there's a lot of silent suffering. And in that silent suffering, new moms or women who are newly pregnant may not know that what they're going through is not normal or is normal. You see what I mean? Like, for example, if you've never experienced that kind of pain before in your life, which if you've never had a baby, you never have, then how do you know this is normal labor and delivery pain and this is abnormal pain? Do you see what I mean? How would you even know the difference? Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And by the way, for anyone who may come in and see that I misspelled the title, I did that on purpose to keep baby Algo comfortable, happy, and asleep. So I intentionally misspelled it because I don't know how the platform feels about that word, but I just wanted to. That's another thing I wanted to say. So, um, but do y'all see what I mean though? Like, how would you be able to identify? Hey, nurse. Hey, doctor. I think I need some extra help, and not have them just go, "Girl, you're in labor," and it's like, nah, this is more than labor. Okay, so that's just one example. Let's go through this article. I am going to read it all. And I think I identified like four different things I wanted to talk about from this article. Okay. So, what happened, period, is just shocking all by itself. So, you can see the title there on your screen. New mothers who died of herpes could have been infected by one surgeon. Okay. Now, I do believe this title is a little bit misleading because it makes you think that like the surgeon did something inappropriate, while they were delivering the babies or something. And that is absolutely not what happened. And that's also not what's being asserted. So I want to make sure I make that clear as well right up front. The surgeon didn't do anything sexually unethical. The way that this happened is just crazy. Some of you already know because you were on the show yesterday, but for others of you, it's going to be new information. So just buckle your seatbelt as we walk through this article and just kind of talk through some of this, okay? So this was published 2 days ago, so I have to assume that was November 22nd. New mothers who died of herpes could have been infected by one surgeon, okay? So these are the two young ladies who unfortunately passed away, okay? But the whole story is crazy, so let's go through it. It says two mothers who died of herpes after giving birth could have been infected by a single surgeon. Oops, the BBC has found. The doctor performed cesareans on both the women in 2018. The families who were told there were no connections between the deaths are calling for inquests to be opened. The East Kent Hospitals Trust says it could not identify the source of the infection, and the surgeon had no history of the virus. Maternal deaths are rare, and more than 2.1 million births in the UK between 2017 and 2019, there were 191 deaths of mothers within 6 weeks of giving birth, according to official figures. Deaths caused by HSV1, one of the two strains of herpes simplex virus, are almost unheard of in healthy people. It is common. It is a common infection that can cause sores around the mouth or genitals. Yet in May and July 2018, two young mothers died from an infection caused by the virus. The BBC has been investigating how these two deaths happened and why neither family was told that there was a link between them. Kimberly Sampson, 29, a barber, lived with her 3-year-old daughter at her mother's home in the seaside town of Whitstable in Kent. She was fun, she was loving, and she had lots of friends, her mother Yvette Sampson tells the BBC. She was a brilliant mummy, and that's what she wanted to be. Kimberly's pregnancy progressed smoothly, and on May 3rd, 2018, she went on to the labor ward of the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother Hospital in Margate. Is that really the name of the hospital? Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother Hospital. She thought everything was going to be fine, says Yvette, but things started to go wrong. Her labor was not progressing quickly, her mother says, and Kimberly kept saying the baby was stuck. Eventually, doctors decided to perform a cesarean. Her son was delivered, but Kimberly needed a blood transfusion because she sustained injuries during the operation. After 2 days, she asked to be discharged with her baby, but she was in a lot of pain, and despite being barely able to walk, she left the hospital with her mother, okay? So this is her mom, all right? That's her mom pictured. It goes on. It says, but the pain became worse. Even a gentle touch was enough for her to scream in agony, says Yvette. She deteriorated day after day. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. Her GP suggested they call 999, which is the UK version of 911, and Kimberly was taken back to hospital in an ambulance. Doctors thought she was suffering from bacterial sepsis, a potentially very serious condition. She was sent back to the maternity ward and given antibiotics. They didn't work and her condition worsened. A series of operations followed as doctors struggled to identify and treat the infection. 8 days. No, Siri, go back to sleep. Nobody called you. Wow. 8 days after she had been readmitted to hospital, a consultant microbiologist suggested trying the antiviral drug acyclovir, which is used to treat herpes infections. Kimberly was transferred to King's College Hospital in London, where she was diagnosed with a catastrophic herpes infection. While she was in intensive care, Yvette says she was told her daughter only had hours or days, and on May 22nd, Kimberly died. Okay, so this was Kimberly and her husband, Ryan. All right. It says one death from herpes is rare enough, but just 6 weeks later, Samantha Mulcahy would die of the same condition. The 32-year-old nurse lived with her husband, Ryan, 20 miles away from Kimberly. The couple had been together since they were teenagers. Ryan had first spotted her when he was working a part-time job at his local Tesco, but it took him months to get up the nerve to ask her out. Samantha's mother, Nicola Foster, says her daughter was excited about being pregnant with her first child. I think she was already talking about having more children. But what should have been a joyous time for them turned into a tragedy. Samantha went into labor 4 weeks before her due date, and in July 2018, went into the William Harvey Hospital in Ashford, which is run by the same trust as the hospital where Kimberly's baby had been delivered. After 17 hours of contractions and pushing, she was exhausted and in pain. After some worrying blood tests, she was taken for a cesarean section. Her daughter was born healthy, but because doctors were concerned about signs of the blood pressure condition preeclampsia, they decided to keep Samantha in for observation. After 3 days, her condition began to deteriorate despite no longer showing signs of preeclampsia. Her stomach became swollen, she had a temperature, and her blood pressure was raised. Samantha became so swollen that her mother said it looked like she had elephant's legs. Like Kimberly, doctors thought Samantha was suffering from bacterial sepsis. She was also given antibiotics, but they didn't work. And this is her mother, Nicola Foster. It says, as her condition worsened rapidly, her organs began to shut down. She was taken to intensive care where she stayed for 4 days. At one stage, a doctor suggested she be treated with antiviral medication, but they were advised by the microbiology department to continue with antibiotics instead. Doctors called for support from a hospital in London, and surgeons took her into the operating theater to try to stabilize her. They told us that unfortunately they couldn't save her, that she had gone and she had passed away, said Nicola. The post-mortem investigation found Samantha had died from multi-organ failure following a disseminated herpes simplex type 1 infection. In other words, an overwhelming infection caused by the HSV1 virus. Neither woman's baby was found to have been infected with the virus, which is awesome. Hospital analysis of the women's medical history indicates they had not previously had herpes, so they would have had no antibodies or natural protection against the virus. This, combined with the fact that women in late stages of pregnancy have reduced protection from their immune system, would have made them more vulnerable to a serious HSV infection. Herpes viruses are generally passed on by skin-to-skin contact with someone who has the virus. Herpes infections are common, with almost 70% of adults having one of the two types of virus by the time they're 25. Some people will develop cold sores or genital herpes, but about 2/3 will have no or mild symptoms. Okay. Now it continues. The story doesn't stop there. Okay. It says more than a year after the women's deaths, the families each received a letter from the coroner saying there would be no inquests in these cases. The letters acknowledged there had been a similar case, but said that there was no connection between the two deaths. They also set out the belief of the path. They also set out the belief of the pathologist who investigated both deaths that the women had been infected with herpes prior to hospital admission. Okay, so basically, the coroner at this point in the story had closed the book on the case, trying to imply that they picked up herpes out in the streets somewhere, basically, or from their partners or something. But, they got it out there, not in here. Even though their medical records have no record of that, because it's my understanding they test you for everything when you get pregnant. I don't know if they still do that, but that's what it used to be anyway. They would test you for absolutely everything. Okay. Now the story takes a twist. It says BBC News began investigating the East Kent Hospital's Trust's maternity department in 2019 ahead of the inquest of baby Harry Richford, whose death was determined to be wholly avoidable by a coroner. We found further cases of preventable baby deaths at the trust, and a government-ordered review of maternity services is underway. BBC News became aware of the deaths of Kimberly Sampson and Samantha Mulcahy at the same trust in the spring of 2021 and has worked closely with the families to try to figure out what happened to them. While reviewing documents sent to the families, we noticed that Public Health England had looked into the possible source of the herpes viruses, but no detail had been provided. The family of Kimberly Sampson subsequently made a request to PHE for access to that investigation. It reveals documents which cast new light on the two deaths and show for the first time the significant link between the two cases. Among them are two email chains between staff at PHE, the East Kent Hospitals Trust, some NHS bodies, in a private lab called micropathology. They show the efforts that went into trying to establish how the women became sick, whether the two viruses were genetically identical, and whether they could have come from a common source. The emails were partly redacted by PHE to hide the names of those involved. In one of them, someone from the trust reveals that the same two clinicians had taken part in the deliveries of both Kimberly's and Samantha's babies, a midwife, and the surgeon who carried out their cesarean sections. This apparent connection and possible source of infection caused concern among the people on the email chain. The private lab micropathology was brought in to try to sequence the genome of the two viruses to see if they were the same. In an email sent a fortnight after Samantha died, someone working for the lab says both cases, quote, look like surgical contamination, and asked the trust to provide a mouth swab / lesion swab from the suspect surgeon in ONG, which is obstetrics and gynecology, I believe. We know the trust did not provide these samples, and none of this information was passed to either of the families at the time. The emails also show that the parts of the virus that were tested were identical. In an email sent in October 2018, a micropathology worker says, quote, it seems the most likely explanation is that these strains are probably the same, which also adds weight to the idea that these two women were infected with the same virus, unquote. An email from a member of staff from PHE just over a year later says the type of virus was rare compared with the previous 10 years of herpes virus samples collected at its lab in North London. So they got rare herpes out in North London. Y'all be careful. This shows the investigation was continuing after the families received the letter from the coroner denying them inquest. So in other words, the coroner denied them the inquest, but they were actually still looking into it behind the scenes. You see why we don't trust you guys and we have trust issues with you? Okay. Now it gets better. The BBC asked Peter Greenhouse, who has worked as a consultant in sexual health in the UK for almost 30 years and has a particular interest in the herpes viruses, to review the cases. He describes them as very unusual and very rare indeed. He says, you can never be 100% certain what happened in these cases, but from all the evidence that we have, it's very unlikely that they acquired the virus before they got into the hospital, contradicting the position of the pathologist. He said it is more likely that they picked it up in the hospital and less likely that they picked it up in the community or sexually, because there were no facial or genital lesions, obvious or even hidden signs whatsoever. So in other words, they were completely asymptomatic. No lesions, nothing that would have indicated that they had herpes, nothing. All right. After reviewing the documentation uncovered by the BBC, Mr. Greenhouse has developed a theory for what might have happened. Now, this is going to blow your mind because it blew mine. He believes it is most likely that the infection may have been given to the two women accidentally by the surgeon during the cesarean section. The only common source here in a hospital-based scenario would be the surgeon who performed the operations, he said. He said it is possible the surgeon may have had a herpetic whitlow, a herpes infection on the finger, which could have directly seeded the herpes into the abdomen of the women. This, he says, would have allowed it to spread throughout the abdomen, quickly and explains why the women had no external lesions, which you would normally expect to see with a herpes infection. According to the NHS website, the symptoms of a whitlow can vary from a small bump to open lesions, meaning they can go undetected. Many of these will occur without any obvious signs, or they will be so minuscule that you can't identify them, says Mr. Greenhouse. All surgeons wear gloves during surgery, but Mr. Greenhouse says it might have been possible that they split during the operations, allowing the virus to spread. A small study in 1990 suggested as many as 54% of gloves used in cesarean sections had holes in them when they were tested with water after the operations. Further experiments following other forms of surgery produced similar results. It is very rare, but a very biologically plausible method of transmission, Mr. Greenhouse explains. 4 other experts in sexual health and virology have backed up Mr. Greenhouse's theory. In a statement, the East Kent Hospitals Trust says the surgeon underwent a verbal occupational health check where he said he had no history of herpes infection and had no hand. Oh my God. Wow. 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 I really think all these little things that like startle me half to death are to actually keep me alive. I think that's what they're for. I think they're actually like little electric jolts to kind of like jolt me back into like life is what I think. That's what I'm thinking. Because this makes no sense. Who is out here getting startled like this all the time? Ugh, I just turned off all my alarms, so we're good now. Oh, big stretch. Welcome, everybody. Oh, welcome to the show. All right, the article is almost finished. Let's see. They backed up his theory. Yeah. And he said he had no hand lesions, although he was not tested for the virus at the time of the operations. Let me see here. Yeah, okay, we're almost done. This last little section, referring to the email stating that the type of virus was rare compared with other samples collected at PHE's lab, Mr. Greenhouse says this makes the likelihood that the women were infected by a common source in the hospital more likely, and much less likely that they were infected from the community. The trust points out that PHE's report says although there was high probability that they are epidemiologically linked for HSV, this finding does not mean that the viral isolates have an immediate common source or are part of a transmission chain. The families of the 2 women have been calling on the coroner to open inquests into the deaths. Yvette Sampson says it's important for the children who've been left without their mom. Yvette Sampson says it's important for the children who've been left without their mother. Quote, when they're a bit older, they're going to need to know why their mummy died. In a statement, Dr. Rebecca Martin, Chief Medical Officer for Kent Hospitals, said, our deepest sympathies are with the family and friends Kimberly and Samantha. East Kent Hospitals sought specialist support from PHE following the tragic deaths in 2018. Those investigations led by the Trust and the Healthcare Safety Investigation Branch took advice from a number of experts and concluded that it was not possible to identify the source of either infection. Of course, you would conclude that. The surgeon who performed both cesareans did not have any hand lesions that could have caused infection or any history of the virus. Kimberly and Samantha's treatment was based on their different symptoms showed during their illness. Their thoughts are with the families and they're doing all they can. And now Peter Greenhouse is carrying out further research into the deaths with hopes that it might mean that new mothers with unexplained sepsis-like symptoms will be tested for herpes as a matter of course. He says, I hope that the research will eventually change the guidelines so more people will benefit from earlier diagnosis. It is the only constructive outcome that one could hope for after such a tragic scenario. Okay. So I know that that was lengthy, but I thought that it was very important to read it all because it all mattered. So just a recap for anyone who may have been joining, or even just for anyone who may have been just a little lost. Basically, two young mothers passed away who were operated on by the same surgeon for cesarean sections. Okay. And shortly after delivery of their babies, they both fell deathly ill. The hospitals thought it was bacterial sepsis, so they treated them for bacterial sepsis. Only one doctor, it sounds like, throughout this whole process recommended antivirals, but they actually dismissed the antivirals in the case of the one girl and kept her on antibiotics. They both unfortunately and tragically passed away. Well, come to find out, they passed away from catastrophic herpes infections. And here's what's blowing my mind, you guys. They passed away from type 1. Type 1 are the cold sores that primarily people get on their mouth. Like those are so common that people don't even really look at them as herpes anymore, even though they absolutely are herpes. Like, y'all know how I'm always thinking about the children that I don't have. I'm like, dang, man. I was like, if I have a newborn or even a baby or a toddler, like, I really don't want people kissing all over my baby. Like, I don't care how much I love you. Like, the only person who can really kiss all over my baby other than me is the man who helped make it. And I might even look at him suspect after that baby is born. A lot of things might change after that baby is born. You never know. Like, you don't know how you're going to act. Like, yeah, you real cute and all, and I like you, and I know you're this baby's dad, but please don't kiss my baby right on her face. Don't do that. Kiss her on the top of her head, please. Actually, don't do that either. Just don't touch my baby, okay? But I'm serious though. Like, I'm half joking, but I'm also kind of serious. Like, people put their mouth everywhere, and then you want to come kiss all over a newborn? Like, no, the answer is no. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and I could see that making a lot of people really furious, especially if like he has a big family and they like to pass babies around and kiss all over the baby and pass the baby. No, we're not doing that. But anyway, my point in saying that though is that this was type 1, y'all. This was not even type 2, which is genital herpes. Like, it seems like if one of the two was going to kill a person, it would be genital, not type 1. This was type 1. So two women pass away from a type 1, a catastrophic, disseminated type 1 herpes infection. They trace it back to one surgeon. In both cases, the coroner dismisses the request for an inquest into these women's deaths, but behind the scenes, they were still looking into it. They went and found themselves a herpes expert who says that he believes the doctor may have had something called a herpetic whitlow, which I had never heard of before. And just the word whitlow really makes me like literally, I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm completely grossed out by the concept. Just the concept is gross. I don't even want to know what it is. My brain is using its context clues and I don't like it. Gross. But apparently you can have herpetic whitlows on your fingers. Okay? So they think, and then on top of that, they inform the further part of that theory is that, well, half of the gloves that come out of C-section operations have holes in them anyway. That's what the article said. The article said that half of the C-section operations end up coming out with holes in them anyway, about 54%, 53 or 54. Here, I'm going to give you guys this article. I'm dropping this in the chat just so you'll have it now if you want to read over it yourself and look over it as we're talking. So that's troubling and disturbing. And I'm like, why is that? Is that because they're using knives? Is that because of the scalpels and things? Or is that another reason that the gloves are getting torn in cesarean sections? That's uncomfortable. I see why people choose doulas and stay home and have water births at home. I get it now. I see why. Like, Man, but anyway, so that is the story. I wanted to read you the article first. Now I wanted to kind of get into the more serious discussion, which is the title of this video: Why is pregnancy still dangerous? Right? In today's day and age, oh, actually, you know what? Before I get into my commentary, let me do this. I've never done this before. Let me just go through your comments real quick, and then I'll get into my commentary, because by the time I'm through, the early comments will be gone. I've never tried this before, so let me just see how it goes. And then if it doesn't flow well, I won't do it again, okay? But I just want to make sure you guys' voices are heard as well. So good morning to everyone. Hello. We have Ireland in the house. Hello, Ireland. Got Houston here. Hello, Houston. Let's see here. Interesting. It says there's a documentary from Ricky Lake talking about the business of being born. It was so eye-opening to me when I was pregnant. I'm going to have to look into that. I think it was a show we had done at some point in the past, and I don't even know how it came up, but people in the chat were like, yeah, trying to give birth these days is one of the most dangerous things that you can do. And I remember them saying that. I remember it being said in the chat. And I remember thinking, with modern medicine, really? Because keep in mind, guys, again, just to restate, never had a baby, never been pregnant. So I don't know. I've attended 2 births, though, and it is one of the trippiest things to witness on planet Earth. Like, it is just, it's so, it's bizarre, it's weird, it's cool. It is one of the strangest things you'll ever witness on planet Earth, ever. Yeah, I've seen 2 births. Let's see here. Just going through your chats early in the show, and then we will continue on. Yeah, I definitely predict a haircut coming for herpes. The chat says 1 in 4 New Yorkers have herpes, but yeah, they're normalizing getting haircuts for everything. Right. I have no doubt that one will be developed for this, because catastrophic herpes infection, I've never heard of that in my entire life. All right, let's see here. It says C-sections are so dangerous. Absolutely. And maybe that's what we were talking about that particular day. But I heard that a lot of times people just don't feel like being bothered with labor, because labor can go on and on and on for hours and hours and hours. And basically people just don't feel like waiting. So sometimes it's the doctors and nurses jumping the gun, but other times it's the mom. Like, I believe they're allowing women to just go ahead and schedule a C-section these days. Like, you don't even have to actually need one. They just let you just go ahead and schedule it. So you just skip L&D altogether. And I actually have a theory. I have a theory. Here, let me do this while I'm going through the comments. Let me pop this up. This is a different show altogether. But I have a theory. What if babies who come through the canal are different from babies who are C-section babies? And I'll tell you how and why. So babies who come through the canal have gone through the whole entry process, right? So if we were going to take this up to a spiritual discussion, there's a process for everything in life. So babies who come through the canal have gone through the whole spiritual process. But babies who don't come through the canal, it's almost like they didn't walk through the door in a way. So would that make them different in some way? And the reason I think this, y'all, is number one, I'm a C-section baby. So I was born via C-section. My mom just couldn't get me out. She said, you were just too big. So she tried, though, bless her heart. But I didn't come out the canal. And I know I'm different. I know I'm a different child. I don't know how I'm different, why I'm different, but here's why I think that, y'all. And here's really the whole theory. So I'm kind of doing the video right now. But the whole theory is the reason we're different is, in a way, we never woke up, because coming through a birth canal has got to be a very eye-opening experience. You know what I mean? Like, that's really got to wake you up. Those contractions, the force, being pushed out. That's got to do something to the infant to tell it, hey, you're on earth now. Like you're alive now. But those of us who didn't come through the canal, like maybe that's why I'm sleepy all the time. I never woke up. Like I never went through the door. So I'm like, why are all you people so awake? Gosh, y'all don't want to take a nap? Doesn't a nap sound delightful and delicious? I love a good nap. And I think the reason I love a good nap is because essentially I never woke up. Like I'm still in the womb, theoretically. So that is a completely different show. And if y'all are interested in that show, let me know. We will do it. But yeah, like would the babies be different in some way? Because one set didn't go through the door. All right. So I'm still just going through your early comments. Just want to grab any that we can highlight and then move on. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Red flag for them to not further investigate. Always get a second opinion. Always. Like, do not allow yourself to be easily dismissed. Absolutely. It says this is why Fizzer needs 55 years. Absolutely. So that comment is in reference to yesterday's show where we talked about the fact that Fizzer has been given a Freedom of Information Act request regarding why they approved the haircut so fast. And Fizzer said, oh, no problem. We got you. We'll get that to you in 55 years. And they mean it too. It's not a joke. Like it's not a meme. Not a meme. It's actually real. Okay. Right. It says that was my next question. Dissemination from what? Contaminated instruments? Right. Exactly. No, he was wearing gloves. So the chat says, so that means he wasn't wearing gloves. He was wearing gloves. They think the gloves tore. They think the gloves tore open and a herpetic whitlow on his hand or finger transmitted the. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm not buying that. Like, I'm kind of buying it, but not really. Like, that's a lot of errors to occur in a row. You don't feel well, I guess some holes are microscopic, but he was wearing them, but apparently they didn't work. Yeah, it is horrific. I agree. It's absolutely just so scary, man. And I'm going to get into a rant here momentarily. But also, I think someone may have mentioned contaminated equipment. It could have been contaminated surgical equipment. That's what I thought they were going to say. Like perhaps the same tools have been used on two different people, but they're actually trying to say that it came from his hand. All right. Yeah, definitely don't touch my baby. Let's not touch the baby. And you can actually wash your hands first. Actually, if you're coming to visit, you can go ahead and I'm going to have you step over to this hand sanitizing station and have you wash your hands before you start handling and touching all over my baby. Like, is that excessive? Like, I know they have to be exposed to germs in order to build up their immune system, but I feel like people just take liberties with your child. People like to take liberties and like ragdoll them and kiss all over them and kiss them on the lips and the face and kiss their eyeballs. Like, do not. Don't touch my baby. Give me my baby. That's why I don't have kids. The Lord knows I'm not ready because I'm not ready to let go in that way yet. I'm protective over my pets. So, you know, it says those maternal primal instincts kick in when the babies are born. Absolutely. That's why I was like, like, hubby, can you not like kiss her directly on the lips though? What? It's my baby. Yeah, but you know, you used to be wild back in the day. You know, you did a lot. You had a very festive life and lifestyle before we met. And can you just not kiss her like right on the mouth? She's 2 days old. Chat says, I agree 110%. Please keep that policy. No kissing and handling the baby. Like, let her build her little system up first, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so I've caught up to where I dropped the link. So I am going to go ahead and continue on with my thoughts, okay? So where do I even begin? There's so many different thoughts I have regarding this. So the question, why don't we start with the question at hand? The question is, why is pregnancy still dangerous, right? So I made a little quick list for myself just to kind of keep my thoughts on track a little bit. But obviously, this won't be an exhaustive list. And please do chime in and with any details or info that you have. But obviously, the number one reason that pregnancy remains dangerous for women is that it's simply a highly risky thing to do, period. For both the baby and the mother. It's just a risky state of being. Her resources are being taxed to grow a new life. The baby's taking all her vitamins, minerals, resources, things of that nature from her. You know what I mean? And then there's the whole getting the baby out process, which unfortunately we lose women every year to all over the world. But strangely, we do also have a high rate of maternal death here in the United States also. Let me see if I can actually get that exact figure so I'll know what I'm talking about. What is the maternal death rate in the US? Let's see if I can get a quick answer. Let's see. Nope, this is going to be a long answer. I need a quick answer. Let's see. Oh, can I get a non-political answer, please? I just want a here we go. All right, this looks non-political. Okay. And it looks like the most recent is from 2019. So it says in 2019, 754 women were identified as having died of maternal causes in the United States, compared with 658 in 2018. So there was a slight increase there. It says the maternal mortality rate for 2019 was significantly higher than the rate for 2018. Okay. So I know that number, you probably hear that number and don't think much of it. You're like, oh, quote unquote, only 754. But really think about that. Like 754 women died just trying to give birth to their babies. And it's probably actually worse. This is just me grabbing a quick number off the internet. Like I would probably really need to do some actual in-depth research on that to get you a more accurate number. Here on the CDC's website, here, let me just drag this over here real quick so you can see it also. The CDC says it's 17.4 women per 100,000 live births. Okay. So, I mean, I think that's still kind of a lot. I mean, I know statistically that's not a lot, but it's still a lot. And of course, wide racial and ethnic gaps exist between non-Hispanic Black at 37.3 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births and non-Hispanic White 14.9. Oh, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. Non-Hispanic Black is 37.3 per 100,000. Non-Hispanic White is 14.9 per 100,000. And Hispanic is 11.8 per 100,000. So this impacts Black women even more than all other women, which is also why obviously it would concern me a lot. It concerns me that it's happening to any woman, but being a Black woman, it concerns me a lot. Okay. So the question that leads me to the question, then why then? In such a civilized country, why is this still happening? Why are we still having issues like this? Okay. So, like I said, reason one, it's simply a highly risky thing to do, period. You know what I mean? It's really quite the miracle that it occurs at the rate it does successfully all the time, because there really are so many different things that can go wrong. So that's reason one. So I think that's the most obvious. So I'm not going to harp on the most obvious dangers of childbirth and pregnancy. But for example, just to rattle off a few, you have preeclampsia, which can occur in a mother right at the end too. Like she can go her whole pregnancy without preeclampsia, then get right to the end of the pregnancy and get preeclampsia, which is dangerously high blood pressure, if I'm not mistaken, Why don't we just look it up? Preeclampsia definition. Pretty sure that's dangerously high blood pressure. Yeah. Preeclampsia is high blood pressure during pregnancy. Well, they just say it's high blood pressure during pregnancy, but that's dangerous. So high blood pressure is dangerous, period. But it's in particularly dangerous during pregnancy. Okay, so that's just one example. The baby's cord can get wrapped around its neck. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of, it's very tenuous, kind of like flight. It's very tenuous. Everything has to go right at the same time and in the right order too. So it's not only that everything has to go right and in the same order. And on top of all that, the woman is in excruciating pain. Apparently, the worst pain, like when I've asked women about it, you know, like they say there's nothing that matches it. They say nothing tops it. Nothing. Um, some of these women have had surgeries. Some women will be familiar with the pain of waxing. Now, see, I think that's some of the worst. I think that's probably the worst pain on planet Earth. And they said, oh, nah. They said childbirth makes waxing like a day at the beach. I'm like, oh my God. Wow. I can't fathom it, man. Oh, wow. The chat says I've had spinal fusion surgery. Was that as a result of, was that a pregnancy? Oh my God, why can't I speak? Was that a childbirthing injury? Or are you saying that the surgery made childbirth more difficult? I see the chat says gestational diabetes. Exactly. So when I say it's simply a risky thing to do, period, it's just risky, period. And then, after we reach a certain age, they consider us freaking geriatric. So like if I were to get pregnant today, they would consider me a geriatric, and I would rebuke that devil. Say, don't you call me geriatric. You come up with a different name for me. Don't you call me geriatric. What do you think this is? But I would be considered a geriatric pregnancy. Okay. So it's just dangerous, period. It's a dangerous thing to do, period, which is why we really should honor and respect mothers, because they literally risk their lives to bring us here. You know what I mean? So that's reason one. Now, let's get into some of the deeper reasons. And part of the reason I wanted to do this show, because I found it very, very, very concerning, this whole situation. The number two reason that I believe that we are still seeing this and why pregnancy remains dangerous in spite of all our medical advances is that quite often people in general, but I believe in particular in the medical complex, simply do not believe in women's pain or our complaints. And this is why I unfortunately cannot participate in the whole pregnant people thing. I apologize if that's offensive to anyone. I am not trying to be offensive to you in your unique situation. But when you understand, just having the lived experience of being a woman and being disregarded in general society, having to always fight just a little bit harder to be heard or believed or taken seriously, period, just in general. But then to have that same disregard translate into the medical field is why I can't participate in the whole pregnant people thing. Because when you call me a pregnant person instead of a pregnant woman or a pregnant female, what you do is you are erasing my unique feminine experience in this world, including in medicine. So if you just think I'm a man with a uterus, well, of course you're going to disregard my pain. You're going to say, suck it up, chap, buck up. Grow some hair on your chest and push that baby out. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's not quite that brutal, but think about it like this. Man, this could get real deep. This could go heavy quick. So we're currently in the midst of a highly toxic, misogynistic culture that we have not talked about in a very, very long time. I just haven't had the energy, and I've just been focused on other things, but it hasn't gone away. It's actually gotten far worse since we talked about it for the first time on this channel. Actually, sorry, that was on my other channel, Permission to Exist. It's actually spiraled out of control. It's worse than it's ever been. So imagine if you're someone like an anesthesiologist, and let's say you're a 26-year-old single male anesthesiologist, right? You've got a great job. You went to school, you finished, you got your career situated and going. But unfortunately, you are part of the highly toxic, highly misogynistic segment of the male culture. Like, you love it. You're all in. While you're busy prepping for your next patient, you're listening to the manosphere on your AirPods. The toxic, well, they're all toxic at this point. I'm sorry, I'm not buffering this anymore. You're listening to them on your AirPods talk about how much they hate women, how much they dislike women, how much they despise women, how ruined today's woman is, what's wrong with these women. They need to be put in their place. You know what I mean? I know you guys saw that video, that football player throwing his baby's mom around the living room like she was a piece of trash. I know you saw that. He pile drived her into the floor. I've actually never seen anyone throw someone with that much force ever, not even on the football field. He literally summoned up all the strength that he had in his body and slammed this woman to the floor. He was trying to kill her. He just didn't succeed. Okay. So I know you saw that. So you're a young anesthesiologist who specifically provides anesthesia to pregnant women who are in labor, getting ready to have their baby, right? What kind of attitude and spirit do you think he's going to take into the room with him? Do you think he's going to take a spirit and attitude of, let me be gentle, let me be kind, let me be compassionate, let me be understanding? This woman is in a lot of pain that I will never understand. Let me not rush. Let me answer all her questions. Do you honestly in your heart think that a man who's contaminated with that type of thought process would go into the surgical room with that attitude? I'm going to go ahead and tell you the answer to your question is no. Typically, the mindset is this, and I'm not kidding and I'm not exaggerating either. The mindset is something along the lines of, oh, got another screaming cow today. What? You're in pain. Yeah, lady, you're having a freaking baby. You're in pain. Duh. Why'd you get pregnant if you didn't know you'd be in pain? Stupid. You didn't think you'd be in pain? Yeah. I'm coming with your stupid medicine. You want more than the recommended amount? You don't need more. You're fine. This will do. No, this is what I give all the patients. They're fine. This is all you need. You want me to get the doctor because you want more. Sure, I'll page him right now. Yeah, I'm paging Dr. Sam. Texting my best friend. Hey, bro, what's up? Hey, bro, I got this screamer, bro. Like, she's like totally hysterical, bro. And like, she's like screaming at me and like cussing at me, bro. And I'm tempted to give her saline, bro, just to be like, shut the F up, B. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in charge here. I'm the one who can take your pain away and you want to cuss me out? Like, screw these stupid women, man. Screw these women of today. Who do they think they are? Where's her baby daddy at? I don't even see him here. She's probably not even married, stupid whore. Like, y'all think I'm exaggerating? You think I'm exaggerating. You do. I'm telling you I'm not. So why am I saying all this? It's all related to reason number 2. And I use a man in that example, but there are some really sick, sadistic female nurses and doctors as well. Okay. Incredibly sick and sadistic female nurses and doctors. I was just using the man because there are men out there who think like that. And that all relates to reason number two, a generalized disbelief in women's pains or complaints, right? So, again, I think pregnancy, childbirth, and labor is the perfect example because how easy is it to write off a woman saying, hey, no, this really hurts. And they're like, you're fine. You're having a baby. You're in labor. And she's like, no. And I feel like there was a story. There was like some story. I don't remember what it was, y'all. Some woman was telling them something's wrong. And they just basically kept telling her, you're in labor, like laughing at her, like picking on her because she couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? And then it turns out something was actually really wrong. Something was out of place, or like the baby was turned. I don't remember, y'all. And I don't want to just speculate on a story that I can't remember. But my point is, you're basically not allowed to express, okay, you're not allowed to even express what's real. So you certainly can't express something intuitive. So what I mean by that is, you can't even tell them, hey, can I get some more pain meds? That didn't work. And they're like, we just gave you enough. You're fine. It's like, no, honestly, guys, that didn't work. I need more. Right. So you got to advocate for your pain medication. Was it Serena? It's Serena. Chat says Serena Williams. It was Serena that I was thinking of. I knew there was a story. Let me see if I can pull her story up really quick. Serena, I don't remember the details, but I knew it. Pregnancy complications. Here we go. Scary childbirth story. Yeah. Here we go. We gotta look at this. This is totally relevant. This is 100% relevant to what we're talking about right now. Yeah, it was Serena Williams. Now, if Serena Williams can't be heard in the labor and delivery room, who are you to be heard and listened to? Okay, let me get this pulled up here. But do you see what I'm saying though? So we live in a culture where people already are being trained not to respect women. Oh, I got so much content to do. I saw an article. This was months ago. This is back when when Afghanistan fell and the Taliban took over. It basically said that it told women not to go out in the streets of Afghanistan because the Taliban was training young men not to respect women. That's exactly what the article title said. Women in Afghanistan, be cautious because the Taliban is training them not to respect women. And I said to myself, oh, sounds like we could send some American recruits right on over there. They would love it. Not military recruits, American male citizens would fit right in to the Taliban because they also are being trained not to respect women. And that's quite literally what it is, you guys. They're being trained not to respect women, taught on a daily basis. A daily basis. Y'all, the other day, I was listening to a very toxic male YouTuber, and he was analyzing something a woman had said publicly. It was the wife of a rapper who had just been killed. And he was analyzing a statement that she made publicly about something. He goes, halfway through reading what she said, he goes, oh my God. He said, can someone just make Black women stop talking? Please. That's what he said. He said, can someone just please make Black women stop talking? Please. And this YouTuber gets super chats up the yin yang. They delete his channels left and right. He has sub counts back up the very next day. Like, I believe he's actually a millionaire. His subs made him a millionaire. And that's the type of stuff that he says. And YouTube supports it. YouTube promotes it. YouTube protects it. They will occasionally take down his channels, but he just props up a new channel and his subs flood it with over 1,000 subs in one day just to make sure that his money stays flowing to him, to support him getting online and saying things like, can someone just make Black women stop talking, please? And y'all, that's literally probably one of the lighter things I've ever heard him say. That was lighthearted for him. Like that was casual for him. That wasn't even the worst I've heard him say before. But the fact that he gets to sit up there and say it and it's totally protected, totally monetized, it's truly stunning. So it's like I really want to increase my advocacy probably next year, because and part of that advocacy is just simply refusing to participate in this whole pregnant people situation. Or I saw on a female product, a feminine product the other day, for people with vaginas. And I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying. I am trying, because I consider myself to be a very, very open person. And I mean, come on, permission to exist. Go exist. Exist, honey. But in your existence, you shall not wipe mine out. You won't. I won't let you. We have a very unique experience as women. We are uniquely discarded. We are uniquely disrespected. We are uniquely unprotected. And in that uniqueness, you can't rub that out, or else you will start thinking that we're tiny men. Okay? So let's take let's see how this is a little lengthy. So let's do just the top couple of paragraphs, just so you guys know what happened. So this was published January 11th, 2018. It says, what Serena Williams's scary childbirth story says about the medical treatment of Black women. Okay, so let's read just a little bit in this, and then we will continue our conversation. It says, a new Vogue profile of Serena Williams sheds light not only on the health risks that can come with childbirth, but also how those factors, coupled with racial bias in the medical field, can have dangerous or even life-threatening results for Black women. In Vogue's February cover story, Williams recalls dealing with serious complications shortly after the recent birth of her daughter, Alexis Olympia. And let's pause there really quick. A lot of these complications come after, you guys. So remember from the first article we read, it said that these tend to happen, the deaths tend to occur within the first 6 weeks of delivery. So that is a very precious window. So as another aside, for those of you who are in relationships with men who can't fathom waiting out those 6 weeks while your body heals and resets itself and gets itself back together, that is an abusive relationship. And hopefully that's a conversation that you can have before you ever get pregnant with his child. Try hard not to find that out on the back end after you've already gotten pregnant or after you already had his baby. Find a slick way to have that conversation on the front end. Hey, what about right after I have the baby? Like, you think you can hang in there? You think you can hold out the full 6 weeks? Like, present it like a joke. Like, you think you can hang in? The doctor is going to say you got to wait 6 weeks. And if he says something disgusting like, oh, that's what your hand is for, that is an abusive relationship and you need to get out of it. Or even worse, that's what your mouth is for, which I've heard men say that. They absolutely say that all the time. It's part of their standard bot programming when you're having an argument with these idiots. In other words, if he suggests that you make use of another body part while one body part is out of commission, that tells you where his mindset is, and it tells you that his only concern truly is what you can do for him at all times. You understand? So for 6 weeks, he can't be deprived or denied for 6 weeks to just take in the preciousness and just take in the amazingness of what just took place. You just had a baby. That's amazing. And everyone survived. That's incredible. You need to cherish that. But nope, he's thinking about his sexual needs. You are in an abusive relationship, and try hard to find out that information before you ever get pregnant with his child, okay? I'm telling you. Little questions like that will tell you everything you need to know about a person. I'm telling you. I promise you. Because you could look at it like this. What if you, God forbid, got into some sort of accident and you hurt yourself so bad that you weren't able to have sex for 6 weeks? Would he have the same attitude then? Like, well, honey, you hurt yourself down there, but looks like your hands are working just fine. Do you see how insensitive that is to your situations? Like, he still wants you to work in spite of your very delicate situation. That is an abusive relationship, and you need to get out of it and do your best to find out that information before you get pregnant with his child. Okay. All right. Moving on, Williams explains that the problem started the day after her daughter's birth by cesarean section when Williams felt short of breath. Due to her history of pulmonary embolisms, the tennis star quickly alerted a nurse about her symptoms, but the response was not what she expected. Vogue writer Rob Haskell explains she walked out of the hospital room so her mother wouldn't worry and told the nearest nurse between gasps that she needed a CT scan with contrast, an IV heparin, a blood thinner right away. The nurse thought her pain medicine might be making her confused. Look at that. You see? You see what I'm saying? Serena Williams, international tennis superstar who probably has had more relationships with doctors, nurses, physical therapists, pain managers, you know what I mean? Sports injury therapists over the years to know what she might be talking about. And what is this nurse's first reaction? To dismiss it. Oh, honey, your pain medicine is making you confused. It said, but Serena insisted, and soon enough, a doctor was performing an ultrasound of her legs. I was like, she said, I was like a Doppler. Well, sorry, let me say it right. I was like, a Doppler? I told you I need a CT scan and a heparin drip, she remembers telling the team. The ultrasound revealed nothing, so they sent her for the CT, and sure enough, several small blood clots had settled into her lungs. Minutes later, she was on the drip. I was like, listen to Dr. Williams. See, she's trying to make it a cute little joke, or trying to add some levity to the situation, but that's not funny. She told these people what she needed. She told them her medical history. She told them what she had been through before. And this nurse's first instinct was to say, oh, honey, your pain medication is making you confused. This is why it's so important to have an advocate in the hospital. If you know people in the hospital or going through treatments or things like that, even if you can only afford to attend one treatment with them or visit them one time or something, if they welcome it, of course. You don't want to impose yourself on people. You don't want to be unwelcome. But if they are welcoming to you, show up, show your face, and make sure the people in the hospital know that this person is cared about. This person is loved. This person has a psychotic daughter who will pop out from around a corner and be like, hey, yeah, so what was that you were saying in the room there? Uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh. Well, that's not what you said yesterday. Oh no, I recorded you actually. No, I have the recording right here. If you just give me 1 second, I'll play it. I'll play it back for you so you can actually hear what you said. You know what I'm saying? Just little things like that. Do they have a psychotic child that will follow us around the hospital and hold us accountable every step of the way? If not, the chances that they might be taken advantage of are extremely high. So, you know, just someone that they know cares about this person, someone who checks in, checks up, calls all the time, always calling. When they're not physically there, they're probably on hold waiting to speak to one of you. You know what I mean? And I don't believe, well, you know what? When I ran my survey a few years ago, I was stunned at how many. One of the questions I asked was, what profession is your narcissist in? And there were so many doctors and nurses ranked extremely high on that survey. They were one of the highest ranked group of narcissists as far as people saying, because what I was basically asking, I was trying to find out what career field are these people in by and large. I need to run that survey again, actually. But what career field are they in? And lots of doctors and lots of nurses. It was kind of scary. But what I was going to say was, I really don't think these people have ill will all the time. I think it's a combination of many things. I think it's a combination of extremely long hours, probably not enough rest or not as much rest as they would like in between. But more than that, you know what I think it is, y'all? All these new little systems and softwares and technologies and platforms and I health and you health and me health and we health and log into this and log into that and upload your chart to this and forward your chart to that. Like, it changes so much that I think in all that change, it's losing some of its functionality. So just when you mastered a new system, the hospital just when you mastered the old system, the hospital bought a new one. And of course, they're going to switch it over and they don't care what you have to say about it. They're going to train everyone on it and go. And you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of little things that just get dropped. Medications get swapped out by mistake. I don't know if that happens frequently, but do y'all get my point? A lot of logistics, I guess is what I'm saying. Coupled with overworking, and then you take in people's mental unwellness and bada bing, bada boom. Okay. But all of this conversation was around, quite simply, the disbelief in women's pain or complaints. As someone stated in the chat, hysterical. Wow, the chat says, with my youngest, I went in labor at 9:30 a.m., had no phone, got to the hospital at 10 a.m., told them she was coming out, and I was told it would be a while. She was born at 10:11. The nurse had no time to glove up. Like, wow. Like, I'm telling you, hey, the baby's coming out. And you're like, nah, baby's not coming out. You're fine. You got another couple hours. It's like, okay, no problem. Here's your baby. I remember I attended a delivery. I didn't stay through the delivery though, but I attended a delivery with someone else. And it was the friend of the girl, one of the girls whose babies I did see get born. Anyway, no, it was her sister. Anyway, the point is, her sister was in labor and they would walk into the room and tell her to stop pushing. Like, she would like have the urge to push. And that's exactly what she was sitting there doing. And they would come in and say, stop pushing. And I remember thinking at the time, I was young at the time, but I remember thinking, if her body's telling her to push, why would you tell her to stop pushing? But apparently it has to be done correctly. Listen, I'm not a doctor, y'all, by the way. So now I'm speculating, but it was just odd to me. I was like, this woman is in here having a natural birth and her body is currently telling her to push and you're telling her to stop. She went on and had her baby though. She had, the doctor delivered it and everything, but still though, you know, just not being believed and not trying to understand either. Like, whew, when I think about the things that make me like really mad in life and about this life, it's not so much that people don't understand, it's that they don't try to understand. They never develop any type of pattern. Never. Like, no pattern is ever formed that they start to operate off of. I'll give you an example. And I know it's probably not a good one, but I think it works. So McDonald's. Yes, McDonald's. I enjoy an ice cold Diet Coke from McDonald's. I do. It's a treat for me. But I actually like a lot of ice in my drink. And by a lot, I mean go ahead and fill the whole cup up, then put the soda in, right? But every time I ask for extra ice, sometimes they do it right. And when they do, y'all, it's like, it is so easy to make me happy. Like, truly, I am very, very easily pleased because it's the simple things that I want. And it's often the simple things that I don't get, which is what irritates me. But when I get those simple things executed upon well, like I'm the happiest girl in the whole world. When you do my Diet Coke right. So, anyway, it fills me with glee, is my point. But often they do them wrong. So, like, out of 10 drinks, they might do them right 3 times, maybe 2 or 3 times. And that makes me a sad child. You understand? So, what is my point? My point is, y'all know me. Y'all have seen me come through here. You know, I always ask for extra ice. How come it never, how come it never occurred to you to just go, I wonder why she wants so much ice in her drink? Why? Like, when there are some people who say no ice. See, that's the way my mind works. If I worked in fast food and I had 2 distinctly different sets of people coming through, I have one person who wants no ice at all, and one person who comes back around and asks for an extra cup because you didn't give her enough. Why? So that's what I mean by not wanting to know why. Because in knowing why, like, you'll be able to actually like do it correctly. And you should want to do it correctly for me because whatever I do, I'm going to want to do it correctly for you. That's how we improve our society. I do it for the sake of it being correct because when it's my time to service you, hopefully that spirit is in the society. That's a different show. But do y'all get my point though? They don't even want to know why I want my cup filled to the brim. Don't you get it? And the answer, for anyone curious, is because it is so damn refreshing when it's completely filled properly. Like when you only put in a little bit of extra ice, all you do is create like a soupy water that makes me a very, very sad child. It doesn't even hold up in the refrigerator. But if you put the proper amount of ice in there, it will actually keep overnight in the fridge. Like the ice won't melt. So what we're really looking for is the boiling point of the ice, or rather the freezing point. We want enough ice in there to maintain the freezing point. Okay? But they don't want to know, and that bothers me. So they just don't care. You're right. Chat says the problem is they don't care. Shout out to you too, Brandon, by the way. Thank you for your support of the channel. I got your Cash App. I appreciate you. Let's see here. So let's move on to reason number 3, which is very similar. Oh, wait, were we done with Serena? Sorry. Williams continued to have problems after her scare. She coughed frequently. Oh my God. She coughed frequently due to the embolisms, and the coughs were forceful enough to cause her C-section wound to rupture. When she went in for surgery, doctors found that a hematoma had filled her abdomen, which was a result of the blood thinners. A filter was placed into one of her major veins to keep more blood clots from traveling to her lungs. Wow. And when she finally got home, she needed 6 weeks of bed rest. Said Williams' harrowing account places her among the 50,000 women, an estimate that researchers say could actually be on the low end, in America who deal with dangerous or life-threatening pregnancy-related complications each year. Black women are disproportionately likely to face these complications, and they are also more likely to fall victim to America's ongoing maternal mortality crisis, being 3 to 4 times more likely than white women to die from pregnancy-related complications. And let's talk about that really quick. Let's get into the psychology of that really quickly, why that is. And this is just my theory. But in many ways, and I know y'all may not agree with this assertion initially, but hear me out though. In many ways, so they want to know why Black women are more likely to fall victim to these illnesses and things than white women. Well, among other reasons, People tend to automatically straighten up and act right for white people. I'm telling you, I'm telling you guys, like, if a white woman and her husband are in the maternity ward and a black woman and her husband are in the maternity ward, the white people naturally get slightly better service because the assumption is almost like you could get me in trouble kind of thing, versus the black couple who probably doesn't have any political power whatsoever. And I'm just being honest, you guys, to the point where I've even thought through it like, man, if I ever were to launch a business separate from this, I might hire a white guy just to be the face of it. Just to be the person who goes to the board meetings, the person who meets with the investors, the person whose name is on all the documents, even though my name is not discernible, white or black. You wouldn't be able to tell my real name. Doesn't matter. Put his name on things, basically make him like an ambassador for the company. Why? Because they're probably going to just naturally just kind of do what he says. You see what I mean? Versus me, where the natural instinct is to disregard and dismiss me. That is the natural instinct. And it's so sad. It's sad because what it creates is a situation where I always have to advocate a little bit harder for the things that I need, versus let's take it out of health. Let's just go to rental, landlords and leasing, right? If I call about it, remember, okay, perfect. Remember when I was talking about smelling gas at the apartment complex, when we were talking about the complex that actually blew up in the Atlanta area? And I was telling you guys how I had told them about it over and over and over again, and they just didn't believe me. How they would come to my apartment and take a deep breath and go, I don't smell anything. And I would have to sit here and explain to them that, well, look, when I tape my cabinet doors and I seal off all the edges, the smell kind of goes away. Because I was hoping that would make their brain go, well, then it must be coming from the pipes. What's going on with the pipes? But y'all, nothing, like crickets. So then the property manager would call and she would say, hey, P, yeah, our guys went out there and they didn't smell anything, and we don't use natural gas at the property. I said, I never said it was natural gas. Never said it was natural gas. I said, I smell a gaseous smell, like a gassy type fumes. I smell sewer gas, I think is what it is. Oh, well, I mean, again, we don't have any gas lines running to the property. You see what I mean? By the constant dismissal, a figurehead. Exactly, Alexis. He would be a figurehead. I would have no shame about that. And I don't feel like my ethics would be compromised either. I don't think my ethics would be compromised in using a white guy as a figurehead. I pay him well. But I think about that all the time. And I'm like, what if I was a white guy named Brad? You know what I mean? Who called down to the office, was like, hey, it's Brad. Yeah, from Unit 1010. Yeah. Hey, look, there seems to be like some sort of gassy smell or something. I don't know, like some sort of like a gassy smell or something. And like it comes up like around my pipes or like the laundry room. Like, can you guys come check it out? And I guarantee you they would hop to it. Hop, 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 hop. Come in there, shake the shoes off before they come in. Wouldn't just walk all over Brad's carpet with their shoes on. And figure out the problem. Why? Because they want to impress Brad. They want to look good in Brad's eyes. They want Brad to think highly of them. You see what I'm saying? They want Brad to hire them. Hell. So because they think Brad has some sort of, I guess you could say, power, maybe, they treat Brad better and respond to Brad's complaint quicker than they do to mine. Do you understand? So that's a whole nother conversation, but I think it's actually a perfect example. When I file a complaint about something, it essentially goes unheard When other groups file complaints about things, they are heard immediately. You understand? That's why they always say, don't piss off the white women. Once you piss off these white girls, it's over. Regarding whatever issue it is, that's how I know we're going to win this whole haircut issue. Y'all are pissed off these white women. Now, y'all done came after their white babies, honey. Oh, them white girls aren't going to play that. Those white girls don't tolerate that kind of stuff. Okay? They've already told you that. They said, now you have arisen mama bear. They done told you about mama bear. Okay? And Black women are mama bear too, but there's something unique about when the white girls get mad, people listen. You understand? So we're just keeping it real here this evening, this afternoon, because we want to get to the bottom of these issues. So I guess the takeaway message from that is pay attention to how you automatically respond to certain people. Do you automatically dismiss Black women? And do you automatically give credence to women of other races? And if so, you are contributing to this problem, whether you realize it or not. But we could remove race because this really is about pregnant women. Do you automatically dismiss women and automatically give credence to anything a man has to say? And if so, you are part of this problem because you are creating a culture where you're teaching people that it's okay to disregard certain people because of who they are. You see what I'm saying? It's okay. It's okay to kind of throw away. It's almost like if their comment was a piece of paper they handed you, and you just take that paper and you look at it and you just kind of gently put it in the trash. You're like, oh, hold on. Y'all know I love my sound effects. Oh, what? Oh, you can't breathe, really? You think you have blood clot? Oh, honey, you're just, that's that pain medication. You're just a little loopy. Go back to bed, okay? That's what they do. They just gently take it from you and just gently place it in the trash can, okay? So I'm not going to continue reading the Serena article, but if you are interested, because it looks like some of you weren't aware of this, I will go ahead and drop this in the chat. Now, what this means then is that Serena, a multimillionaire, internationally famous superstar with access to the best doctors and nurses on the planet, couldn't be heard. Okay? So that's why we're here. That's part of the reason that we're here. Okay? So now let's move on to a few more points. Then we will wrap this up and close this out and get out of here, okay? But I am very, very glad that Serena is okay. And I'm glad that ultimately everyone turned out all right, including her daughter, okay? So the number 3 reason, which is very similar to number 2, we talked about this when we first started talking about the haircuts, but for a long time in medicine, women were considered tiny men, okay? Tiny men. Meaning no real true biological markers. They didn't really think there was that much different between us. Okay, you have breasts and a uterus and a vagina. Fine, you're a girl. Okay, fine, you're a girl. But you're really just a man who can have babies, is kind of how they saw it. You're a man who can have babies, basically. So thanks for carrying the kids, bro. Appreciate it, my guy. So, and again, that kind of relates to number 2, the number 2 reason, just the general tendency to disregard and disbelieve. But it is uniquely different in that, first of all, the fact that they thought we were tiny men and not uniquely biologically different is just like, how arrogant do you have to be to think that you are the only thing that exists? You're the only thing that exists. Everything is male. You're just a tiny male who happens to be able to bear children. You're a talented tiny male. Okay? So, being the talented tiny male that you are, they did not differentiate your medical care for a long time. They only recently, and by recently I mean like the 70s, started acknowledging women's unique biological differences and needs. And I'm being very general here. I'm basing all of this off of an article I read a couple months ago. But they finally started to see us as real people. Hot damn it. Facts. The chat says, but they're tiny women. Facts. They're actually mutated women, but that's a different conversation, different show. They're mutated. Which is bizarre to think about. Like, you are a mutated female. But anyway, so it just speaks to the generalized patriarchal dominance in the medical community, really, that still female doctors are trying to break through and make strides in, which they are. I think we are making progress, but I think there's still a long way to go. I think any female doctor would tell you that there's still a long way to go. This is why a lot of female doctors ultimately end up setting up practices for women only. Like, so, all female care, not to like stick it to the patriarchy, but so a woman's concerns can be heard and believed. You see what I mean? Absolutely, Red. They sure were. That's a factoid. Nobody wants to talk about that little factoid. But setting up all female practices so women can be heard and believed and trusted, you know what I mean? And that's not to say that there aren't amazing male doctors out there who have female patients that they care for. I know a few really great male doctors, but I think men slip into bro culture sometimes without even realizing it. So, for example, if your therapist or your psychologist is male and he's not very good at his job, chances are he's just sitting there listening to you going, yeah, typical woman, never happy, always complaining about something. She just needs a nap and some anti-anxiety medication and she'll be fine. And it gets dismissive like that, though. The curiosity leaves, basically. There's no more intellectual curiosity or medical curiosity, for that matter. The curiosity disappears. I think I agree with you, Alexis. It said, the chat says their whole lives are bro culture. Yeah, that's kind of the scary thought. Ooh, alpha syndrome. Chat says alpha syndrome. Yeah, the chat says he hears the Charlie Brown teacher voice. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Wendy, how's it going? Absolutely. Like, he hears, Doc, I'm really concerned about this issue. It's been going on for a couple of months now and it's making me really worried. And what do you think I should do? I think you should work on your forgiveness. Okay, thanks. All right, so quick recap. First reason I gave, that pregnancy is still dangerous. It's just simply a dangerous thing to do. The second reason I gave is the generalized disbelief and dismissiveness in women's concerns and complaints. The third reason I gave was that for a long time in the medical establishment, women were considered tiny men. Now, the fourth reason is incompetence compounded, okay? And we are going to get into this more when we do our People of the Lie episode, which, what is today? Wednesday? I think I'm going to do it on Thanksgiving Day. I did People of the Lie on Thanksgiving last year. What was that one called? Oh, that one was called Welcome to Invalidation Station. Because it was all about the family. So, yeah, so I think I'll do that tomorrow. So, sneak peek and quick preview, you guys can look forward to People of the Lie tomorrow, God willing, on Permission to Exist. Okay. But we're going to get into this concept more on this next episode of Incompetence Compounded, basically meaning that it's no one person's fault. It's the fault of many people, from the insurance company to the medical school to the hospital itself to like everyone and everything in between. Do you see what I mean? So it's kind of like everyone's errors come together to form the one big error, basically. Everyone's little mistake comes through to form the one big mistake, almost like what happened on the set of Rust with Alec Baldwin, who accidentally killed his director. Same thing, even though I know a lot of fingers are pointing and people are placing specific blame, when you really look at the whole scenario, there are multiple people to blame, and everyone dropping the ball in their one unique area came together to kill that girl, basically. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and here's another way to look at it. Believe it or not, like as much as we joke and laugh about airplanes and what takes place on airplanes and in the airlines, they're actually pretty safe. They're actually relatively safe. They're safer than cars, at least last time I heard. They were safer than motor vehicles as far as a form of transportation. And the reason they are actually relatively safe is because you have to fail in so many different areas and in so many different ways to take the plane down, basically. Now, could a pilot just decide to take the plane down? Sure. But what I mean is for a plane to go down against the pilot's will, multiple systems have to fail first. So that's what I mean. So when I say incompetence compounded, that's what I mean. The failure of multiple small systems. So, and what worries me, you guys, is that when I was coming out of school, I was looking at my high school. I was looking at my generation going, y'all ain't the sharpest tools in the shed now. Now, that could just be a function of where I went to school. I mean, I think I went to school with some pretty bright kids. But then again, I would have to do a very in-depth analysis of that. My point is, I didn't go to school with all dummies, you know. And I looked around and I was just like, oof, I don't want any of them to be my doctor or my nurse. None of them, right? But then fast forward 10 years and I was a public school teacher and I'm looking at that generation going, ooh, ooh, I need to get my steps up. I need to drink a little more water, take my vitamins, and I need to do everything in my power to stay healthy because, dear God, this generation, these are going to be the ones who are going to be our doctors and nurses. But then that was, oh God, what year are we in? That was 10 years ago. So now another 10 years has passed since then. I cannot imagine what has taken place in terms of the quality of student since then. So, and culturally, keep in mind right now, culturally, well, first of all, it's never been quote unquote cool to be smart or intelligent. People have always been called nerds. Some people just didn't care and went on ahead and did their nerd thing. And now their nerdiness is paying off. But my point is now, oh man, it's so hard to explain. It's really not cool to be smart now. Like really not cool. Like you cannot show signs of intelligence in this generation. They will eat you alive. Because keep in mind, this is the generation that talks like this, bro. So like, bro, like you coming through with all your big words, bro. And like, you're like stringing together all these big words, bro. And you're like blowing my mind, bro. Like you're like way over my head, bro. Like come back down to reality, bro. Like speak normal, bro. That's the generation you're dealing with. So do you think the generation that doesn't want to speak in complete sentences and talks like this and says, bro, really has the wherewithal to study truly medicine and apply the principles thereof? Or do you think they'll study just enough to pass so they can graduate, so they can get a job? And on top of that, many of the schools are lowering their standards to meet the generation that talks like this, bro. They know they can't compete, bro. They know that approaching these kids in the traditional way won't work, bro. They know that if they keep trying to teach these kids the old way, bro, that these kids are just going to keep dropping out, bro. So they actually lowered the standards to meet them where they are. So I say all that to say, when I say incompetence compounded, this is what I mean. I'm not just placing the blame squarely on the shoulders of the present generation, because who raised them? Who brought them up? Who taught them and let them get away with letting their education slip to the point where they really can't speak both ways? You see how I waffle in and out of it? How I can very easily slip into it then come back? They can't do that. They don't have both sides. They only have the one side. And that's not okay, but who raised them though? So I'm not mad at them. What I do is take note. I look around and go, this is not looking good. Let me stay as healthy as I possibly can. Let me try to keep my health up, because it even comes down to respect, you guys. So sometimes it's not even a matter of they have some weird gender issue and they're hung up on, oh, I hate women, therefore I don't listen to them. Sometimes it's just a matter of respect. I don't respect another person when they're talking. I don't respect another person enough to listen to them. Do you see what I mean? So it's even the respect levels are gone. So we could take the whole gender conversation out into saying a lot of people don't respect human beings anymore. My grandmother used to say all the time when she had a doctor or something that she liked, she used to tell them, you have a very good bedside manner. By the way, anytime I do my grandmother voice, that's who I'm intimidating. When I do the granny voice, I'm impersonating my grandmother. That's exactly how she used to sound. So just the FYI, y'all kind of are getting a taste of my grandmother anytime I do the granny voice, but she would straight up tell them that they had very good bedside manner. And she appreciated that. You know what I mean? And at the time, I didn't understand because I was young. So I would think, well, don't they have to be professional to keep their job? Like, don't they have to be professionals? You know? So in my mind, I guess I was like, well, don't they all have good bedside manner? But now that I'm older, I completely understand, because at her age, to be treated kindly by another person meant something to her. To not just be pushed around and rushed around and treated like a burden or treated like a problem, that meant something to her. Them taking the time out to answer her questions about her medicine or whatever was going on, that meant something to her. So when she used to tell them, you have a very good bedside manner, that was a high compliment coming from her, because a lot of them were assholes. Now, she wouldn't say that, but I will. She would just say that they don't have the Spirit of God on them. You don't have the Spirit of God on them, baby. That's all. I'm like, yeah, he's a demon. Oh, baby, he just don't have the Spirit of God on him, sugar. That's all. Like, yeah, he's a damn demon. No, I didn't curse. I didn't curse on my grandmama. I wasn't like that. I'm not that much of a heathen. But I would say something like, yeah, Gran. Yeah, Gran, he's a demon. Oh, sweetie, he just don't have the Spirit of God on him. That's all. Yeah, he's a damn demon. All right, let's move on. So, um, I think that's about it. The fifth and final reason I wanted to give as it relates to all this, and part of the reason I really kind of wanted to include it in our general conversation on this channel, is because as that initial article stated, um, a woman's immune system is lowered towards the end of her pregnancy, which I think is so interesting. So we were discussing on this channel a couple weeks or months ago how and why so many pregnant women end up in comas when they get the touch. If you're new to the channel, you'll kind of have to decipher what the touch is. But it's that thing that's been going around that's caused us all to go on lockdown and mask up, mask off, mask back on. You know what I'm saying? That thing. When pregnant women get the touch, they stand a very high likelihood of going into a coma or dying, which is why they highly advocate for pregnant women to get the haircut. Y'all already know how I feel about all that, so I'm not going to go into that. But it has always intrigued me, this whole coma thing. And now I think we finally have our answer. It's quite simply that when pregnant women get the touch, and they get it towards the end of their pregnancy, their immune system is already lower. So it's like the touch just comes in and just takes them completely over. Like it just completely knocks them out. And it almost seems like they go into a coma as almost like a protective measure, like the body is trying to protect itself. Like, okay, we're going to just put you into like a deep sleep while we try to fix this, and you try to have this baby. And a lot of times they'll go ahead and deliver the baby. I still can't think of that girl's name. She's an Instagram, no, she's a YouTube influencer. Let me see if I can think of her name. Great, let me see. Grace, YouTuber, coma, pregnancy. I think she's actually still in a coma. Her name was Grace Victory. Her name is Grace Victory. That's her actual name, Grace Victory. Coma update. Did she ever come out of this coma? Let me see. It looks like she did. Okay, she finally came out of her coma. She was in a coma for, let me see here. They placed her in a coma on December 24th, Christmas Eve. The baby wasn't born until February. Oh, no, sorry. They delivered the baby. And then when did she actually come? Wow. They placed her in a coma in December. She came out of her coma in March. She was in a coma for 3 months. Her name was Grace Victory, if you feel like looking that up. So, yeah. So, just trying to figure out like the what's and the whys and the hows behind that. You know what I mean? But it appears it has something to do with just having a lowered immune system at that time. So I just thought that was an interesting piece to put in there. And I just wanted to share that with you guys as a theory as to why women are going into these deep comas in pregnancy when they catch the touch. So that essentially concludes my thoughts. Let me go through just a few minutes of your comments here, and then we will. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining. Actually, before I do that, let me do this real quick. Brief commercial break, and I'll be right back, okay? One sec. All right, I'm back, you guys. So I'm just going to go through your comments really briefly. Again, if I skip over your comment, it's not that it was a bad comment or anything like that. I just can't read them all. So I just roll through. But do know that I watch them on the playback. And that's when I read them all. So that's where I get a lot of stuff from. Also, I wanted you guys to know this because I don't know if this only happens to me, but sometimes when I'm watching the playback, the chat will just stop moving altogether. And I'll think to myself, oh, they just must not have had very much to say at this part. But then a lot of time will go by and it still hasn't moved. I'm like, now I know they had something to say at this point. If you toggle between top chat and live chat on the filter, yeah, I think that's the word for it. Top chat and live chat. Let me look. If you toggle between those two, for whatever reason, sometimes the chat just stops moving. So for those of you who actually do watch the live chat back, I don't know why it does that, but you just have to toggle between it and it'll like reset it and put it back. So I just wanted y'all to know that. I would hate to think somebody was sitting there reading it and then went, "Oh, they just stopped talking." Well, that's a bummer. No, YouTube just loves us so much that the functionality is super high. Let's see here. Wow. So this is in relation to when we were talking about waiting the 6 weeks after childbirth. It says, I've worked with people that have been injured through car accidents and their husbands left them. How sad. How very, very sad. So you had to be perfect the whole time. You had to always remain as you were. It says PTE, I am a postpartum nurse, and it honestly is very routine on my floor, but it is scary what happens to some of the moms downstairs. I bet. I bet the things you see, some of the things that you've seen, man, it always makes you wonder how they did it in the past. And then well, they obviously did it because we're all here. So maybe they knew how to do it like the truly normal way. Because you know what I personally believe? And just to give a quick disclaimer, and the reason is because people are always coming and going. I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, but this is just my opinion. I really believe like babies are supposed to be born like on chairs. Like I know they have birthing chairs, and I know some ancient cultures used to use birthing chairs. Like I think you're supposed to be upright. I don't think you're supposed to be on your back. Oh my God, that sounds like the most painful thing ever. Like just thinking about it sounds painful, but I feel like if I was upright, like on a chair, we could get this going. But I think the reason they don't do that is because the baby could just like come like flying out, like with a lot of force and like hit the floor. So that's why they don't deliver babies like that, I think. But still, I'm like, man, if y'all don't put me in a chair and let me get this baby out of me. Just scrolling through. Thanks everyone for being here today. I certainly appreciate you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, see, there's reasons. It says, Hi PTE, I was told to stop pushing. Little did I know the umbilical cord was wrapped around my baby's neck. That was why in my case. Okay, see, there's reasons. There's reasons. Hopefully your baby was born healthy and safe. But like, can you actually stop though? Like, if your body is giving you that urge, because from what I understand, like the urge just like comes over you and it's almost like instinctual and like it's almost like you're trying to push almost to relieve yourself, if that makes sense. That's what I heard. Is that true? So are you actually able to stop pushing? You can make your body stop? I'm curious. Such an amazing thing though. To see it happen is just like, wow. Wow. There was a whole human in there. Like, how incredible is that? I'm just scrolling through you guys' comments. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, we got to be so careful out here and never forgetting that all medicine is a practice and always has been for the most part. And I don't know if it always will be. Maybe we'll get final answers. Maybe we'll get cures one day and it won't be a practice anymore. It'll just be medical cures. Just scrolling through your comments, and then we are going to get out of here, okay? It says, I'm pinky beige. I wonder what was that in relation to? What were we talking about? It says, I'm pinky beige. Oh, goodness. Y'all are fun and funny. All right. Well, I think we had a really, really great conversation today. And I hope the conversation continues down in the comments below. I am going to get out of here and do some finagling with some content and some other things. Oh, good. I scrolled to the bottom. It says, I noticed that too, that sometimes the chat stops moving. Thanks for the info, PTE. You're welcome. And I think it even happens when we're live sometimes. So you can be watching a live show and the chat will just stop moving. And it's like, wow, they just stopped talking, all of them? Nope. YouTube just stops it for some weird reason. So with that, you guys, be safe out here. If you are an expecting mom, or a mom who thinks she'll be expecting very soon, or a young woman who plans on having children, please never be afraid to advocate for yourself. Never be afraid even to get on people's nerves. Because I think a lot of times we as women, we don't want to bother people and we don't want to irritate people and we don't want to get on people's nerves. So we won't advocate for ourselves and we won't speak up for what we need because we don't want to be a pest or we don't want to be a bother. But there are going to be times in your life where you're going to have to be a pest and you're going to have to be a bother, because being a pest and being a bother just might save your life and the life of your baby. And, you know, people mean well, but people make mistakes sometimes. And if you're in the process of catching that mistake, you know what I mean? Call it out. But, I'm not at all placing the burden on these women's shoulders at all. It's on the burden of those who've studied this to make sure they're doing everything correctly. All I'm saying is don't lose your voice in the process. You see what I mean? Don't ever be afraid to get a second opinion. Because as we've seen on one of my recent haircut shows, they just got through recalling 2 million at-home touch tests for creating false positives. So what if someone had based their whole life around that false positive versus the person who was like, you know what? I really don't feel sick. Let me go get another test. Let me get a second opinion. You see what I mean? So don't ever be afraid to do that. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your body, stand up for being a woman in medicine. And I don't mean being a doctor. I just mean being a woman who participates in the medical industry in some way. It is very, very easy to wipe us out and just lump all of our conditions together under, oh, she's just crazy or she's just hysterical. You know what I mean? It's very, very easy to do that to us. Don't let it happen, especially if you're a Black woman. Black women, we have a tendency even more so, I think, to try to shrink because we don't want people to think we're the angry Black woman, or she has an attitude, or she got nasty with me. We don't want people to think that about us. We want people to like us. So a lot of times we won't advocate either because we were like, well, I don't want to contribute to the stereotype right now. But if contributing to the stereotype saves your life, do so, because it just might save your life. You know what I mean? But I get it though. I understand completely. I have to remind myself that you are your greatest advocate and you can't let go of that duty. Okay. But hold these people accountable. I'm happy that these families did not just accept the coroner's explanation and demanded an inquest, because in their demands, they finally got the answers that they were seeking. Okay. But I think this is a good conversation. I'm glad we had it. Please stay healthy and stay knowledgeable and educated on all of these things. Okay. And with that, we will talk again soon. We'll probably be back more than likely with a haircut update on this channel very soon. All right. So I will talk to you then. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.